The following program is a special presentation of King 5.
Don't you cry now.
Oh my gosh, there's a salmon.
Mother of daughter, set up the courthouse. Let's do it!
Sorry, we had a little interruption.
Am I making it awkward by asking the questions first? It's okay, babies.
They weren't able to do that.
Well, they are the men and women usually behind the camera. You don't always see them, but they play a crucial role in telling the amazing stories you see here at King 5. I'm Greg Copeland. Over the next hour, we take you behind the lens and show you the Pacific Northwest from the perspective of our world-class photojournalists. They were there covering some of the biggest stories of the year, from COVID to record-breaking weather to the first Kraken game ever. Today, you'll get some insight on how these stories came about. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we flip the camera.
My name is Tim Hahn, and I'm a photojournalist with King 5. Rainy morning, typical Seattle November. In order to gather something like this event, my first thing is I need to find somebody in the crowd who is going to be able to tell me what's happening, beginning to end, give me all the facts, the nuts and bolts, if you will. And then after I get that interview, that's where I can go, okay, now I need some like real emotion for this story. I need to talk to people who it impacts. Maybe there's generations of families here that have been impacted by Veterans Day. So I kind of look around for maybe people who are expressing some emotion or and any range of emotion. I'm just not talking about sadness, but also happiness and just people who have a lot of life to give, you know, that would really be able to help tell the story. So I stand back as like a fly on the wall and I scan, and I saw this boy walking around with a bugle, and I said, he's got to be here for some reason other than just that. And it was like his third or fourth time doing it, and he plays echo taps is what it's called, which is something that I you know, doing these things you learn something new yourself. Echo taps is basically, his role is to echo the person who's playing taps. So there's always a note behind, so it feels like the sound is echoing through the area. It was such a powerful moment there that everybody in the crowd was able to feel together, and I hope that that was portrayed to the viewer as well.
The dreary weather didn't diminish the spirit at Evergreen Washelli today. One part pride, one part remembrance.
A great sense of pride of our country, and that with the armed forces, that we will never forget the people that have gone before us.
The cemetery at Evergreen is the largest in Seattle, providing ample space to honor those who serve.
It's a carry-on of one of the key traditions of our country that we have in honoring our current service members, and especially our veterans.
According to the Department of Veterans Affairs, there are 544,533 veterans in Washington state. Many of them here today, joined by Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and other volunteers, placing flags on each of the 5,000 plus white marble headstones, including several for Medal of Honor recipients.
I know a lot of veterans. I have family that were veterans, friends of family, you know, so it's a very important day to me, and it's really an honor to be out here.
From Seattle, Steve Bunin, King 5 News.
My name is Megan Renane, and I'm a photojournalist and visual storyteller at King 5.
Good to see you. You too.
The story I submitted for this special was about the Lake City neighborhood and how they're transforming the area through mural artwork. Almost 5 years ago now, when I started at King, I met Mark Mendez on a story. Mark Mendez and some youth leaders worked on a mural at the Lake City, one of the food banks in the area. So that's how I first met Mark and some of the teens, including Diana Quintero Perez. Talking to Mark, I learned that it was bigger than just this one mural that they were working on. He wanted to transform the entire neighborhood into murals. And he wanted to do this to bring awareness to the neighborhood, that they're a diverse and growing neighborhood and that they need more resources and more attention. And he does this by working with local artists and with the teens in the area as part of a leadership program. He says that a little bit of paint can make a big difference, and the teens can see the impact they're making right away through these murals. Mark and I kept in touch, and he reaches out one day, hey, we're working on a new mural, we'd love for you to come out and film. It's about the history of Lake City. So I thought, oh, that's perfect. This is the perfect way to tell this story about all these murals. I went to the unveiling of this final mural about the history of Lake City, and I met again Diana Quintero Perez. She went out there to see the unveiling. She's since graduated from high school. She's in college at University of Washington, and being a part of this program has totally changed her life trajectory. She's now interested in pursuing a field that's related to community work. When I started at King, which was in 2017, I was hired as a trainee photojournalist. So I had less than a year of TV news experience. So I was fairly new to the industry and to this career. I learned of this story just a few months into my job here and met Mark and all the kids, and I thought, wow, this is a great story. And I told the story of just that one mural, but I knew it was a bigger story about this community and this neighborhood. I also knew it was going to take some time for me to tell this story because my skills, I was still new, my skills weren't at the level I felt this story needed, you know. So I kept in touch with Mark. You know, I filmed another mural back in 2018, and I held on to that video as well. It never ended up airing, so I held on to it because I knew I wanted to tell this story one day. So when Mark reached out during the pandemic, kind of after things had opened up a little bit, kind of art was coming back, community events were coming back a little bit, I thought, what a great positive story to tell, and this was the perfect time to kind of complete this story and tell it in a way it deserved to be told. I'm very proud with how far I've come, and most importantly, I'm proud that I'm able to do these stories justice, and that my skills can tell those stories well, because I think that's what the community deserves, is our best, and to give it our all in telling these stories and sharing their voices and their experiences.
You can go around the world in 2 blocks and enjoy food from all around the world in Lake City.
Mark Mendez loves Lake City.
A lot of people don't realize how special and unique we are, and the murals are a way to say, hey, we're here. We need more services. Hey, Rick.
Hey,
it's good to see you. You too.
Nicknamed the mayor of Lake City, Mark knows the story of this community.
This place had so much history, and I'd never done anything with all these complicated gears and stuff like that, and I just kind of wanted to do that.
A story told through art.
Have a good day, all right?
We've done about 50 murals inside and outside of local businesses in Lake City. This is one of our murals of the Great Pyramids in Egypt. We're hoping that people want to visit the mural and spend more money in this business. This is the first mural that we did that grounds you to the neighborhood. It creates a sense of place.
Mark started the program in 2016 with the goal to connect underserved teens to the community and provide leadership skills.
So these are teenagers that usually don't feel like their voices are heard, and they may not feel like they make a difference. But with our murals, we do show them that they can make a big difference.
Bring more like diversity, more colors into Lake City.
Just ask Diana Quintero Perez, who painted a mural back in 2017.
It really shaped me into knowing what I really want in life.
Them saying that it's something special to them that just, I don't have the words to describe what that means to me.
I think it's fun and enjoyable work. It's a lot better than being stuck at home doing homework.
In 2018, we met one youth leader as he painted his first mural for the community.
Doing anything from the community, even little things, just feel good because you're helping out other people, even if it's the small things. Just like this one mural, only a handful of people can see it. If you do enough small things, it will add up. And eventually, maybe this community can have more artwork.
I'm just painting this person's apron white.
Now in 2021, Ben Loom has painted 5.
And while you're painting, while you're helping make the community more beautiful, you're also meeting the people who live here.
And the theme is telling the history of Lake City.
Ben and the community painted that story.
It's a really great way for people to come together and everybody gets to put a little bit of paint on the wall and then they can come and say, hey, I did that.
Hello everyone, how you doing?
These murals tell the story.
And we have many more murals to go, but this is our most important one to date.
The story of Lake City.
I really believe that art is a really important part of a neighborhood.
To be a part of Seattle history is pretty special.
To see after 10 years all of this kind of come together in that moment was a really special thing.
My name is Mike Perry, and I am the chief photographer here at King 5.
How about that?
I had the good fortune of being able to travel with the Kraken as they started their preseason road trip through Canada. Me and Chris Daniels followed them along from training camp here we went to Spokane, and then we went up north into Canada, went to Edmonton and Calgary, and just kind of followed the sports side of things a little bit as the team did their games, but then we also tried to find some stories along the way and tell some stories along the way. This was like a week-long road trip, just following a team. We would get up super early, work all day, and literally try 16-hour days, turn some stories, cover the game, go back to the hotel room, get a few hours of sleep, wake up, and then we had to hit the road again the next day to the next location. The clip that I gave you is just a very small section, about 2-minute section of this large documentary that me and Chris Daniels put together. The whole piece is about 52 minutes long. One of our key players this year on the Kraken is Mark Giordano. He had played the last 10 or so years in Calgary, and so we went up there and he basically found people to talk about him. He was a big part of their community up there. To be a part of Seattle history is pretty special. Right, this team is going to be here for decades, and everyone's going to always try to look back at that first year, and I was a part of that.
Well, preseason continues as we move south in the province of Alberta. Preseason game number 3, and a special night for Mark Giordano.
It's nice to have Gio come back.
I'm sort of excited to see him back in the Dome.
One of the greatest Calgary Flames of all time.
He's irreplaceable. He was the captain. He was the heart of the team.
He's a great leader, both on and off the ice.
He was great on the ice. He was great in the community, and he will be in Seattle.
We weren't ready for it, but sort of understand it.
Oh, Canada, we stand on guard.
Seattle's lucky to have him.
Sit back and enjoy preseason game number 3 tonight from Calgary, Alberta.
And in storybook fashion, Gio did not disappoint.
By Eberle, here's Giordano. He scores! How about that? Mark Giordano goes 5-hole on Dan Pladar. There's the big story.
Scoring the game's first goal en route to Seattle's 4-3 overtime shootout victory.
Super happy for him. I know it was probably a little kind of a weird feeling for him coming back and playing. I just super happy for him. You could tell he was enjoying that moment, and he spent so many years here and did a lot for this city and team, and you can tell how well he's respected.
We've got some decisions to make over the next few days. You know, the time is getting pretty short in terms of putting things together for opening night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.
After the exhibition Thrilla in Alberta, the Kraken head back to Western Washington. And the calendar is shrinking.
I am Matt Mrzinski. I'm Director of Photojournalism here at King 5 News.
3, 2, 1.
The story I put on there was the very first game, the first regular season game of the Seattle Kraken in Las Vegas. Well, we weren't sure if we were even going to get to go because of all of the pandemic and whatnot, but we finally were able to secure the trip and went down there with Chris Daniels. Chris and I arrived early. We were the first crew on the ground there from our station. And spent a few days just trying to get the feel of what the atmosphere was like, and ran into a number of Kraken fans that were already there days prior. To see after 10 years all of this kind of come together in that moment was a really special thing. For me, I just love being around the people to gauge their reactions. I sort of thrive off of that. And especially in that moment, that night, it was a sight to behold, for sure. Well, as the players were getting ready to come on the ice, the only thing I kept thinking in my head is, you better get the shot, because this is only going to happen one time. So I was actually practicing what I was going to do in several ways that evening, because I had Paul Buxton with me, and I knew Paul, who had been following the entire time, was going to have a really powerful kind of moment. So, when the players first came up to warm up on the ice, before that I was going like this on Paul, making sure I had it, and then sure enough, Paul just takes this deep breath, like, it's here. For me, I am a journalist, but I am a Kraken fan, a season ticket holder. So we get to do a lot of fun things like this on occasion in local news, where we get to be a part of history and things that we are too very much have personal investment in. So to see the team take the ice like that in the environment in Vegas, who is known for being showmen of sorts, was just incredible. The crowd was incredible, and I know Chris and I were both kind of looking at each other back and forth like, wow, this is really cool. This is finally here. The whole thing is shot in the moment. We really don't ask a whole lot of questions. We just capture it. We figured that that's the best way that we could present what we were feeling and experiencing down in Vegas, and give that back to the viewers here, and really in a lot of ways is a historical piece that people can keep for forever and ever. But yeah, we wanted them to feel what we were feeling and see what we were seeing, and the best way for me to do that is take my lens there and allow them to experience it.
Vegas is known for creating fake history, whether it be a Roman Empire or old Parisian cafe.
Gotta get my tickets. 5.
But tonight,
3, 2, 1.
Paul Buxton wrote a real chapter.
Into the arena, here we go.
One a decade in the making.
Man, we did it.
Dude, this is crazy.
Yeah. You deserve it. You've been there from the day one.
It's crazy.
He and John Barr have been carrying a torch for longtime hockey fans.
Love seeing all the signs. First cracks.
And so many milestones on the way.
Yeah.
You don't realize, oh, this is another milestone.
The two friends came here 4 years ago on the night's opening night, pushing the Western Washington fan story. Barr runs a website called NHL to Seattle.
Getting teary-eyed all day just with the moment, right? It's just an insane, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Literally, my dream is coming true tonight.
They stood here in the same spot as the Kraken hit the ice for the first time.
There we go.
go, Kraken! Over here, we finally did it. Man, let me tell you, this is 10 years in the making right here.
It is the I was there moment. No more false hopes.
This is the gravy. We can be fans now. Like, we don't have to go to city council meetings. We don't have to advocate and try to get people to show up at rallies.
Finally, on this Vegas night, Seattle's NHL dreams are reality.
My life is complete.
She had this magical moment where she put her hands on the metal and the rust, and she had a visceral reaction. Hi, my name is Michael Botsford. I'm a photojournalist here at King 5 Television. I did have an opportunity to do some general assignments on a very special day, September 11th. I knew that there was going to be a piece of the World Trade Center in the art. One of the things you do first after you capture a little bit of the people speaking is get reaction shots. Literally the first woman in the crowd that I zoomed in on, she started wiping her face. So I paid attention to that and knew I was going to try to interview her later if I had time. The lady was taking photographs, and so I found her, and she had this magical moment where she put her hands on the metal and the rust, and she had a visceral reaction. I knew at that point that was how I was going to end the story. She was relating to the humility and the sacrifice, and for me, all of last year was all about trying to be humble about what you have, just to be alive, just to be able to breathe. I'm just thankful that I work at a place that I feel like I can actually say, hey, I got something here, and they give me a couple minutes on TV to tell a story that was very powerful.
When a firefighter had died in the line of duty, paying the supreme sacrifice, it was the mournful toll of the bell that solemnly announced a comrade's passing. Never forget what they did here.
One of our firefighters petitioned Ground Zero, applied for a piece of steel, and we were accepted. And then a group of 4 drove nonstop back to New York, picked it up, brought it here to Gig Harbor.
The piece of steel that's here, it's an actual piece of steel from the collapsed trade towers that they were able to bring back here and put into this memorial garden.
When I'm working on the steel, to be able to do it, I had to think of it as just steel. But in the back of my mind, I knew what a privilege to be allowed to do that. I retired from the department 3 weeks ago after 38 years. It's probably the highlight of everything I've done here in District 5.
It's cold, but it makes me think of all the people that were lost that day. The people that woke up expecting to do other things that evening that never happened. I think of the officers and the firefighters that got up that morning and they were expecting to go to work and come home that night and celebrate birthdays and go to bed beside their spouse and tuck their kids in or read their kids goodnight stories, and they weren't able to do that. And I'm grateful that there are people out there that are willing to do that.
Oh my gosh, there's a salmon.
I was so deep I couldn't see where I was stepping. Like, I could have been stepping in a hole. I could have been like stepping on a fish or something.
Don't you cry now.
They didn't give up on her, and I'm glad they didn't.
There's a lot of people who got credit for that early grunge music scene. Tina Bell was not one of them.
My name is Adam Thompson, and I'm a photojournalist at King 5. This story is about Tina Bell and her band, Bam Bam. Tina Bell is known by a lot of people in Seattle as the godmother of grunge. And one night, I got a call from my assignment desk to go check out an event happening at the Central in downtown Seattle. And it was a tribute show for Tina Bell. So I get there and I talk to the organizer, and she says, I have just the person for you. And she brings out TJ, who is Tina Bell's son. And I thought, oh wow, this is way better than I imagined. So I did a quick interview with him, and I think we got something super quick on the air that night. But after hearing his story and learning about Bam Bam and learning about Tina Bell, I thought to myself, there needs to be a little bit more to this story. So the next day, I just told the producers, hey, I have content that I shot last night, and I want to put together a natural sound piece. And they were excited for it, which was great. This story is important because there's a lot of people who got credit for that early grunge music scene in Seattle, and Tina Bell is not one of them. If this story shows even just a few people the contribution that she made to not only the music scene, but the city in general, then I think that's important.
Good, you got tickets? I'm TJ Martin. My parents were Tina Bell and Tommy Martin, who founded the band Bam Bam. How you doing? You guys stand?
I'm Shane Stone. I was primarily Tommy Martin's guitar tech.
Bam Bam was a band that was founded in the early 80s.
Bam Bam was the band that other bands came to see.
And the Bam Bam tributary. A lot of people think they're one of the early kind of purveyors of the grunge scene. In a community that is predominantly white male musicians, Bam Bam was led by a black woman. Godmother of grunge, if you want to call her that. We're kind of course-correcting history simply to remember their contributions to music. And I think people lose sight of the courage it took for a young black woman with child to be the front woman of a punk band in Seattle, Washington. For a lot of people, this will be kind of a throwback or a blast of the past, but for me, it's like literally my childhood. This is the soundtrack of my childhood.
Thank you so much.
I'm Ted Land. I'm a reporter here at King 5.
And sometimes you also do.
And sometimes I also shoot stories. I got a call from UW Medicine saying, hey, you got to come meet this patient. It's miraculous. We've never seen anything like this. And it's a real story of hope amid what felt like a lot of despair. And this was one of the most remarkable patients that we probably saw in our region during this period. A woman named Jenny Aguilar, she went into the hospital in early 2021 with a very severe case of COVID. So I went there and I met Jenny, and this was the day she was going to be discharged from the UW Medicine Montlake campus. Just to hang back and hang out in her room with her and her sister and watch as one nurse and one doctor after another came through the room and said their goodbyes and cheered her on and gave her high fives. It was amazing to see because there were so many of these moments that day for her and for the team that all I had to do was just stand back and watch and not miss it. To be there and talk to her and help cheer her on and see her leave that hospital was a really beautiful moment for me, I think, as well as the medical team. And you know, they didn't give up on her, and I'm glad they didn't.
The UW Medicine Montlake campus is quieter than it was at the height of the pandemic. Staff are catching their breath after the storm. And in room 6208, Jenny Aguilar could be the primary patient, reminding them why they worked so hard.
I'm so pumped.
I told you that we were going to make us come back somehow. Yes, Miss Janelle.
Aguilar, a 32-year-old mother of 5 who lives in Reno, thinks she caught COVID on Christmas.
They took me right away to urgent care, And from there, I don't know what happened. And I woke up the next day here in Seattle.
Doctors flew her from Reno to Harborview in early January and later rushed her to the Montlake campus as her condition worsened.
Jenny was one of the sickest that we took care of.
It was so bad, her lungs failed, then her heart. Her family prepared for the worst.
Every day I was thinking about my kids.
Aguilar's care team made a Hail Mary move, one last attempt to save her life.
So think of it like the pump is acting like your heart and pumping the blood through the machine.
It's called ECMO, and it takes over for a patient's heart and lungs, mechanically circulating blood and replenishing it with oxygen outside the body. It gives damaged organs a break, and doctors extra precious time.
We thought, let's just try it and see if it'll work.
It did. Aguilar began a slow, shaky recovery. Doctors say most patients spend 2 to 4 weeks on ECMO. Jenny was on it for 4 months.
This is the first time at this hospital in UW-Medicine we've done a long run like this, ever. So this is like, kind of changes everything with approach to severe lung disease.
I'm gonna miss my Lola, I'm gonna miss Christina and Skylar and all them. Don't you cry now.
I'm not. Don't you cry now.
On Tuesday, after 6 months in a hospital bed, Aguilar prepared to head home.
Bye, Jenny. Bye, Christine. It's hard to say goodbye because now they've been with me through my ups, through my downs, through my anxiety, my depression sometimes, and they were there. Thank you. I love you. Thank you.
The team that never gave up wanted her to know what she meant to them.
You're the best, Jenny.
You're the best, Bets. You're the best.
She gave them hope.
Bye, sweetheart.
Bye.
I'm gonna brush your hair now.
They gave her life.
There's still the what ifs again, but I think I'm ready for the challenge.
Ted Land, King 5 News.
I'm Eric DeRogers, and I'm a photojournalist here for about 2 years now.
Oh my gosh, there's a salmon.
There had been flooding that entire week. My reporter, Callie Greenberg, got in touch with a young couple who their house had completely flooded out. It was up in Mount Vernon. I was there with one of the owners, and she was showing me around through like their garage and through everything, and she was opening up the doors, like fighting against the garage door, against the water to open the garage door up, and showing me where the boats and all their cars have been waterlogged. I brought some waders with me, some nice big like insulated ones, and yeah, we were walking all along up in the water, and I was up to probably my chest, like up to the very limit, walking around their backyard where their barn was, you know, where they used to like keep chickens. You have to be really careful because you're carrying that on your shoulder and you're walking around, you can't see. I was so deep I couldn't see where I was stepping. Like I could have been stepping in a hole, I could have been like stepping on a fish or something and dropped my camera. There was a couple of close calls where I tripped and like caught myself before dropping my very expensive camera in the water. They were such a nice couple. They were so pleasant. They nearly lost their entire house. They lost so much of the garage. They had to like rebuild all of that. They were so like nice, and they kept upbeat even though, you know, they couldn't keep upbeat the whole time, but they were really just their spirit and their personality really kept me engaged with them, and I really wanted to tell their story the best way I possibly could. A natural disaster like that, you see it and you kind of know it on some level, like, oh yeah, lots of water, lots of damage, but like seeing how that affects just like a single individual really gets you to understand what they're going through, and you multiply that by hundreds, if not thousands of people, they're all going through that same thing. I met multiple people whose houses have flooded during that, and just seeing how that affected those two, and then imagining it times 1,000 times 100. You kind of lose that when you're covering news sometimes because you're covering such big events, but it's really about the people.
Many dream of one day owning a home with a view like this.
We've got our chicken coop and then some apple trees.
But a water-filled yard took Sherry's Kevin by surprise.
Plenty of ducks and geese are enjoying the backyard at the moment.
The water along the creek in East Mount Vernon rose quickly Monday, a day that was supposed to be a celebration.
We actually got the email from our mortgage broker in the middle of the day that our house closed. And so, yeah, it was lots of ups and downs, and it was really 3 in the morning this morning that I made the call that we needed to get out of here.
So the water came up to about right up to the siding here. And
Sheris and her husband left their 3-acre property behind, a place family helped rent and renovate into their dream home.
The heartbreak in this is that the only reason we were able to afford buying a house, because this is our first home, was because we lost my father-in-law a year ago. And he left us inheritance that allowed us to do this.
The next morning, their house was okay. Their garage was flooded and the rest of the property underwater.
Ooh, it's cold.
Leaving a backyard to survey.
Oh my gosh, there's a salmon.
From historic flooding that had Sheris' husband, Tony, relieved flood insurance was required to purchase their home next to the wetlands.
Assuming that flood insurance is going to do what it's supposed to do, I think we're going to be really grateful that we have it.
With the water on its way out, they wait to see the full extent of the damage, saying right now emotions come in waves.
This kind of took the wind out of our sails a bit, but again, the house is intact. We're safe. What more can you really do? You can't really do much when it's Mother Nature.
The question was, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And we were thinking, whoa, this is really earthquake.
He didn't have time to dress up, so I just came as, and we are here now.
My name is Doug Dillon. I'm a photojournalist here at King 5. That evening at around 10:30, the Seattle University got a call from Kaiser, I believe, saying that a malfunction had happened on one of the fridges, didn't get closed with the vaccine, and as we know, the vaccines need to be kept cold. So they called and asked the news, can you please put this on your newscast at 11 so we can get, there was, I think, almost 1,500 vials to be used. And this is in February when it's still height of pandemic. Shots are hard to come by. Nurses, people that are sorting this, they come back like in an hour, they get it mobilized and they're ready to start giving shots at 11 p.m. Our reporter got called back in and Tony White and I went inside to see what was going on. The malfunction was someone left the fridge door open, sadly. But the great thing of it was they were able to rush 1,400 shots into people's arms. I think the last shot was administered around 2:30 that morning. And so from 10:30 till 2:30, 1,400 and something shots got administered. And it was fun to see in what was a kind of a dark time. To me, that gave me some happiness and joy to see these people so excited to be seeing science work and them getting the benefit of what these doctors had done, getting these volunteers who had been volunteering every day, giving out shots and stuff, to come back, get this up, and in, 4 hours, give out that many shots. And it was amazing to see how joyful they were to be getting that opportunity to get it, because they'd been trying. Again, these people were trying to get vaccinated because they were at risk population. You still had to qualify. It wasn't like they said, hey, anyone who shows up. So most of these people were 60 to 80 years old and showing up and getting, vaccines that late at night and happy as they could be. And the workers that were helping were the volunteers, again, not getting paid. They were, smiling the whole time, asking the questions, getting the people organized. The intake was so fluid, it was amazing. So it was really fun to have a good, have a good story instead of more people dying, So that was, I think to me, that was what gave me joy during a time where it was mostly reporting terrible news about the virus. And then that was when Capitol Hill at the time was going through a lot of tumult as well. So, and this is on Capitol Hill, Seattle University's at the edge of Capitol Hill there. So it was a nice harbor in the storm.
Give me the next 6 people, please.
It was definitely short notice. More than 1,600 doses of the COVID vaccine that had to be given out or they could go bad. About half went to this clinic at Seattle University run by Swedish. Word went out to the public at about 11 o'clock last night.
My wife came screaming down the stairs saying, "Did you see the news?" I hadn't.
I was doing dishes. So she got on, we made the appointment, and we came.
The appointments went fast. Sharon and her husband came from West Seattle, but said they had even considered driving to Spokane.
I've spent 2 hours a day on it, trying to get it, and I have my name on about 4 lists.
A few were still in pajamas. This couple said their daughter got them out of bed and told them to start driving.
She called me at 11:30, was in bed. Mom, quickly, the appointment is going to be at 1 o'clock. So he didn't have time to dress up, so I just came as, and we are here now. And then we're done and go back to bed. The lines were long, but volunteers moved people through quickly.
We think, over 150 volunteers. We actually had to turn some volunteers away. We have clinical folks and support volunteers, and the community rallied, and I'm super proud to be part of Swedish. Our team shows up.
It all came together, not a single drop wasted. Perhaps the most amazing part, what can happen when everyone works together.
Woohoo!
Couldn't get in here at this time of night. It was definitely important.
Looking back in the news business, we've had a front row seat to history. But on February 28, 2001, the news team became part of the story.
The governor is
Staff at King 5 passed.
The question was, where are you? Where are you? Where are you?
Chandelier shaking.
Whoa, this is really an earthquake.
And present.
I was 8 years old when the Nisqually earthquake hit.
Have their own stories to share.
There will never be another news day like it in Seattle.
Chris says that's partly because the night before the quake, the infamous Mardi Gras riot in Seattle's Pioneer Square kept news crews up all night.
I put on my coat and the lights above me start swaying. And I'm thinking, man, Chris, you are just exhausted, delusional at this point. I see the look of shock on everyone's face. And somebody shouts out, earthquake.
And at first I thought, is there a big truck rolling by our station?
Mimi Jung, new to King at the time, remembers news managers rounding up the troops for coverage.
As the ground was shaking, she's trying to direct people, and I'm thinking, of course, I'm a news reporter, so I'm thinking, do I run out the door and try to get in a car right away, or do I get under my desk?
When the earthquake hit on Wednesday, the road split right down the middle.
Longtime photojournalists like Tate Miller were sent in all directions.
I was kind of that guy chasing everything else on the outskirts, but not right in Pioneer Square, not down in Olympia. But it was definitely nuts.
Photojournalist Dave Wyke was on a ferry boat and didn't feel it.
Didn't think anything about it, and our phones just started lighting up. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And they said, there's been a big earthquake. There's an earthquake. It's huge. The reporter and I looked at each other and said, really?
But he knew his workday was just beginning.
Drove to Paulsbo and found a gift shop where the materials, the glass and everything was on the floor, and we got some shots there. And then the rest of the day just unraveled and was very, very busy.
Imagine working in a high-rise building like traffic reporter Stephen
Because
Kilmer.
of the wind, I honestly never felt the wind when I worked there. But boy, you could feel this, and it just was shaking from the bottom up, and you could feel it rumbling.
And it's crazy in the newsroom. I'm in earthquake mode instead of sports mode.
Sports producer Tony White.
We were on the roof for about 10 hours straight doing live shots all around the country for everybody.
We are told Governor Locke is down at Camp Murray right now.
While Tony was on the roof, meteorologist Rich Marriott hit the deck in the weather center.
The dust and everything out of the lighting fixtures started coming down. Man, I knew it was an earthquake, and I rolled over underneath the desk that was in there. So I was safe.
I was working in Portland at the time.
But ironically, South Sound Bureau Chief Drew Mickelson ended up at the state capitol in Olympia for round-the-clock earthquake coverage.
And then we looked up at the columns, and there was one that had a crack in it. We first met lawmakers with pieces of the ceiling. Downtown Olympia had bricks everywhere. The dome behind us actually lifted up and rotated a little bit.
Reporter Kayla Lafferty and producer Lexi Davenport were in local grade school.
I was out on the playground, and it's like all of a sudden I noticed the windows start shaking on the school.
Me and my classmates were just getting ready to sit down to read a book with our teacher.
And then I looked down and the pavement almost looks like waves.
The whole world just started shaking like nothing I'd ever experienced before.
I still have all these memories of being this little kid and watching all the reporters in their yellow jackets.
And they were just stunned by the awesome power of Mother Nature.
I've never experienced an earthquake. I wouldn't even know what that's like.
Yeah, no, I mean, if that was a wake-up call for all of us who had never been in one before. What have we been doing over the last 20 years to prepare for the next big one?
Hopefully enough to be prepared. Jake Wittenberg, King 5 News.
Yes, the literal bird's eye view of birding. I'm Jordan Treese. I'm our Tacoma and Pierce County photojournalist for King 5. This story is about Black Birders Week, and this is the second one of these that was put on by Audubon societies throughout the country and in the Pacific Northwest. It all came about from an incident at Central Park the year before that a lot of people remember. And they wanted to put on these sort of events to kind of shine a light on lesser known aspects of birding and naturing things for groups that are not always seen in that light. From a photographer perspective, this was a really, really fun story to shoot. It was really interesting to hear from people who have so much knowledge and passion about an activity that I know nothing about. I know seagulls, I know eagles, I know sports mascots, and that's about it. Whereas all of these were like, oh, if you go here at 7 o'clock, you'll be able to see this specific bird. And it was fascinating to be able to be a part of that and witness it. Because it's something that I don't do very often, obviously. I was able to get a microphone on a couple of them, so when they're talking about, oh, if you look over that way, it was really cool to kind of just pick up on the little things like that about when they're birding. Like, if you're
bird's eye view.
Yes, the literal bird's eye view of birding. I think events like this are great for the community because of how diverse Tacoma is, and making sure that we're able to shine a light on these events that kind of showcase that. Being able to continue to do these kind of stories that are showing that the community is having these events, and these are things that are happening and are positives that are awesome things about Tacoma, like the Dune Peninsula, they're great. And I think they give us a good opportunity to show some of the very cool things that not a lot of people think of unless you live right there.
We are birding today. We're here at Dune Park, which is on the waterfront of Tacoma. This is Black Birders Week, which is named after Christian Cooper, the black man who was in Central Park, a birder himself who was falsely accused of harassing someone.
The immediate outshoot of that was we recognized that black folks and other people of color are maybe not treated the best when they go to some of these places that seem to be, outside of their own safety zone.
One of the things that happened after the Christian Cooper incident in Central Park a year ago was that people became more aware that there were a lot of black birders, but they weren't as visible to people.
About 4 or 5 years ago, I met Christian Cooper, and he's an outstanding birder. We were doing a program on diversity. We met up in Hog Island, and just talking about how do we get more people of color in the outdoors.
Birding actually doesn't require very much to get started. It requires looking or listening. Binoculars are helpful.
That's a great place for him to ambush fish.
Almost everywhere is a good place for birding, actually, but Pacific Northwest is an exceptionally good area.
Often when we're at home or in our backyards, we hear and see them all the time, but we take them for granted and don't think much about them.
We hope that people really kind of make birding their own, in their own way.
3 rhinoceros auklets were interesting.
People talk about birding and people talk about being in the outdoors differently depending on what your culture or what your family has kind of provided for you. Nature belongs to everyone. Birds don't see color. And this is a great opportunity to really talk about what kind of things can we do to make those places more inviting.
That does it for us. Thank you for watching the King 5 Photojournalist Special, and happy holidays.